Okay, I never heard of this show until recently, and I'm not sure how many of you know about it either, but here we are. So Block & Son is a puppet animation adult comedy series on Comedy Central, created by Ben Bayou. It stars the titular Block and Son, who doesn't actually have a name, and is just referred to as Son, and not just by his father, but also literally every other character in the series. The setup of this show involves Block, a passionate but old-fashioned conservative dad, who tries desperately to connect with his Gen Z gamer son and teach him valuable life lessons. However, Son views Block as nothing more than a nuisance. Now this may sound like a premise that every one of us has seen a million times over, an overbearing parent trying to maintain a close relationship with their adolescent child, who's trying to gain more independence from them.
I know I go overboard trying to bond with you, but really it's because I miss you.
Dad, I'm like 5 feet away from you at all times.
However, trust me when I say the way Block & Son executes this plot doesn't come close to how you would expect, as this has got to be one of the most wacky and insane shows I have ever witnessed. Sure, there's the typical conflict of a parent feeling that their relationship with their child has grown distant, and they want to reignite the bond they used to share. However, the difference with how this show goes about this is the fact that Block is completely unhinged, and will go about things in the most extreme way possible, even for the simplest tasks, such as dealing with a rat infestation in his home.
We need to infiltrate from within. First, you gotta smell like them.
Ah, is that rat pee?
Look like them.
Ow!
And most importantly, sound like them. We gotta work on your squeak.
Other examples include Block becoming jealous when Son looks up to his teacher at school, and Son returns his entire house into a replica of a school, with cardboard cutouts, and pretends to be a teacher himself, hoping it will get Son to respect him. And there was also the time where Block acts as if he's gonna murder his best friend in cold blood, just to try and teach Son a lesson about lying. And those are just a few examples of Block going off the wall just to express his love for his son. As for Son himself, he's a far more grounded character, acting as a straight man to Block, leading to some hilarious reactions to his outrageous antics.
You took two things that worked perfectly fine on their own and forced them together until they didn't work at all, just like you do with us.
While Son starts off the series acting like a typical young teen and gamer, his character gets elevated in the second season after getting his ego stroked by Block calling him a real man, as he starts to become a little crazy himself, just like his old man. Outside of Block & Son, the show is full of other interesting characters who bring a lot to the table. The most prominent ones would have to be Block & Son's next door neighbor Stacy, and his son Junior. Similar to Block & Son, the two of them deviate quite a bit away from what you might expect from their characters. When they are first introduced in the show, it seemed like the two of them would act as foils to Block & Son, similar to Ned Flanders to Homer Simpson from The Simpsons, as they initially come across as a more functional and well-off family. However, as the series goes on, it becomes clear that that is not the case, and bit by bit we're shown their depressing home life. Stacy had wrote a self-help book on how to be rich, which ironically put him in a massive amount of debt, due to it selling so poorly. This results in him becoming miserable, as he feels directionless and inferior compared to all his friends from college, who had all become successful in their careers.
I am sad, and I am aware that I am sad, which in turn makes me even more sad. It's a never-ending infinity pool of despair.
He even adopted Junior simply because they all had kids. Because of this, the two of them have a toxic relationship. This results in blockable people giving him advice and being the voice of reason, which is the exact opposite direction I thought the show was gonna go with these two characters and their relationship with each other. As for Junior, he starts off as kinda creepy with his uncanny facial expressions, along with him making bizarre sounds rather than speaking actual words for the most part. However, he unexpectedly ends up being the most normal person amongst this insane cast of characters. There's an interesting episode where Junior spends time with Block, who, unlike Stacy, is actually able to find a way to bond with him. However, things take a dark turn when Junior reveals his traumatic backstory to Block, which starts off with his parents surviving a car crash, only to end up being mauled and eaten by wolves right in front of him. He then ended up in an orphanage, where he was relentlessly bullied because of all of his weird quirks. He was then adopted by Stacy, who only did so out of ego, and things take yet another devastating turn when Junior reveals to Block that he now wants to be his son. And sadly, that couldn't happen, forcing Junior to go back to his unhappy home life with Stacy. Gosh, I just feel so sorry for this poor kid. This whole storyline shows that even though Block is an absolute nut job, there's no denying that he genuinely loves his son, unlike Stacy, and that son is actually quite lucky to have him as a father, even if it means having to constantly deal with his ridiculous antics. Moving on from Stacy and Junior, there's also Fletch, who is probably my favorite character of the show. He is Block's best friend, who often helps him with his over-the-top schemes. He also helps Sun overcome some of his personal challenges. Fletch has his own bizarre quirks, hence why he is able to get along so well with Block. However, they're also unique enough to distinguish him from Block, allowing him to stand out on his own. He's also not quite on the same level of crazy as Block is. Because of this, he often has to be the one who tells off Block whenever he goes too far. Although it's usually all in vain. Fletch is simply hilarious, and he bounces up all the other characters in the cast perfectly.
What are you doing up there?
Well, it is a Wednesday evening, and I always do my inverted abdominal workout. Minimizes workout time while maximizes the effect.
Just like rule number...
Just like nothing, boy.
Up next is Regina, who is Sun's love interest throughout the series. Regina is a massive weirdo, who often goes on long tangents about various subjects that she's passionate about. She also has a decent amount of depth to her character, as she has a stressful home life, along with having a difficult relationship with her mom.
Yes, I picked up your meds, Mom. No, I can't right now. I have study group. I need to relax. Don't tell me to relax. I hate it when you say that.
And often hangs out with Sun in order to get a momentary break from all that. Next is Chimpy, who was introduced as an antagonist in season 2 of the show. His deal is that he was once Block's adopted child, whom he abandoned before Sun came into his life. Block then takes him in again, but just to use as a tool in order to teach Sun a lesson. Because of this, Chimpy is a malicious, bloodthirsty villain who initially wants to kill Sun to have Block all to himself.
You tell Blark, you die.
And after Block ditches him once again at the end of that episode, he returns in the season 2 finale, more threatening than ever. Overall, Chimpy is a hilariously evil antagonist. And I guess the last character left to mention is Seek, Sun's online friend. Although he only appears a handful of times to deliver a couple of jokes. Although he did have that one standout episode where he uses a BR set he made in order to trick Block into killing Sun for no real reason. Boy, that was such a wild episode. Now it's time to discuss the puppet animation. First things first, there are the character designs, and chances are your thoughts when you first laid eyes on them were probably, what on earth are these abominations? These designs will burn into your memory forever due to how bizarre and uncanny they are. However, that doesn't mean that they're bad. On the contrary, the weird looks suit the odd nature of the show, and the puppets themselves are very well built. As for the puppetry, while it may not be as sophisticated as say in Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, as it is a bit rough. However, just like with the designs, it's full of charm and fits perfectly into the style of the show. Moving on from the animation, it is now time to discuss the show's comedy, and it is top notch. Which is honestly really surprising, considering the fact that it's made by the same studio behind the atrocity known as Santa Inc. I can't stress enough how refreshing it is to see an animated adult comedy that doesn't rely on lazy and juvenile humor, such as throwing in a bunch of swears, drugs, and sexual references and calling it a day. I mean, that was the comedy of Santa Inc. in a nutshell. While Block and Sun does use all of those elements, the key difference that separates this show from 95% of modern adult animation is that the news for actual jokes that are superbly written and perfectly timed. However, what elevates this show's humor is how absurd it is. Several situations go from 0 to 100, and it comes across as extremely hilarious. Alright, now it's time to summarize my thoughts on Block and Sun, and overall, it's really good. Granted, it can be pretty weird at times, but still really good. This show was a Patreon request, links down below, and I probably wouldn't have known about its existence if it weren't for that. And I'm glad I got to see it. I also recommend that you check it out for yourselves. And that was my review of Block and Sun. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to give it a like, share, and comment. Also, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell for notifications. And if you're interested in supporting my channel, then head over to my Patreon. Well, I got nothing else to say, so see ya.